Hello, good morning, and welcome to the best day of the college hoop season to date. How we doing, guys? My name is Rob Dauster. This is the Field of 68. It is a Saturday pregame show. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Jeff Goodman with me. I have Seamus Magee with me from BetMGM, and we are going to be breaking down a ridiculous slate of college basketball games that we have here today, December 14th. Before we get started, gentlemen, we're going to try to get to as many games as possible on this slate over the course of the next 30 minutes. Remember, we got Memphis and Clemson tipping off in about 30 minutes at 11 a.m. in Clemson, South Carolina. Goodman, give me your one game that you're looking forward to seeing the most today and the bet that you like the most today as well.
I mean, the game you want to see, doesn't it have to be Louisville, Kentucky? I mean, doesn't it have to be Mark Pope against Pat Kelsey? Doesn't it have to be the battle? Maybe the rivalry will be back because there hasn't been much of a rivalry in a long time between those two programs. But now I think they're on maybe not even footing right now, but the most even footing they've been on in a while. And you're talking about Pat Kelsey's team that's down to 7 scholarship players, Mark Pope's team that is absolutely rolling at Rupp. It's going to be awesome. So I would say that's the one that I can't wait to see at 5:15 today. But the one that I like the most, to me, it's Xavier Cincy. And that line, Seamus, is it still 7.5? Is Cincy favored by 7.5?
Yeah, it's still at 7.5. It's kind of stayed there most of the morning, too. Not a ton of sharp money's come in yet. But right now, there's mostly some Xavier money coming in. This is a Cincy team that hasn't beaten Xavier, I think, since 2019. So a lot of people still believe that Xavier can, at the very minimum, keep this within the number.
I love the Musketeers getting 7.5 points. I don't know about you, Rob, but I love that one.
Yeah, Seamus, game you're looking forward to the most and the line that you like the most right now.
Well, it's a little bit of both. I'm sticking with UConn Gonzaga here. I do not like fading Dan Hurley in MSG. It's a long trip for Gonzaga to come out here, and Connecticut's starting to round into a bit of form, some form that we're pretty familiar with. So I think I like UConn in the Garden to win this game outright.
Ooh, I'm not going to complain about that. As the resident UConn guy on the Field of 68, I'm going to not hate on that at all. For me, that's the game I'm looking forward to the most is Zags and UConn in Madison Square Garden. There's a world where that could have ended up being a top 5 matchup. The gods in Maui did not think that was going to be something that they wanted to allow happen. So here we are. The line that I like the most, guys, and this is simply my theory, Seamus. There's no actual data on this, but my theory is that anytime you see a line that just looks like it's completely off, you got to bet. It's the trap play, and the trap play of the day is Dayton minus 1.5 at home against number 6 Marquette. You got the Golden Eagles coming into town. You got Cam Jones, the front runner for Player of the Year, coming into town, and they are underdogs against the Flyers. Give me Dayton, lay the 1.5. I think that's my favorite play of the day. Is there any sound logic to that, Seamus? You can tell me I'm crazy if you think I'm crazy.
No, it's very sound. I tend to agree. And right now we're seeing pretty lopsided at the moment Marquette money line coming in. So I think Dayton's looking like the right side to be on here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I'm not saying that I bet my half of the company on this, but let's just say, Goodman, we have a pretty big sized stake on Dayton in the spot. All right, let's talk about Gonzaga UConn because I think there are 3 games today that I kind of circle as like the marquee of the marquee. Ones where no matter what you're doing, you got to stop, you got to get yourself in front of a television, you got to make sure you watch it. Gonzaga UConn, Tennessee, Illinois, Louisville, Kentucky. We already talked a little bit about Zags UConn. We talked a little bit about Louisville, Kentucky. So, Goodman, I'm going to start you off with this. Number 1, Tennessee goes on the road to Champaign to take off Illinois. Seamus, I'll let you kind of elaborate on this, but this line has kind of bounced all over the place since it opened yesterday. Goodman, what is the key to this matchup? And then, Seamus, kind of break this down from a betting perspective for me.
Well, listen, I mean, Tennessee has gone on the road and they blitzed Louisville earlier in the season. So if there is a team that has confidence and they have the culture and we know they can defend, I think obviously the key is going to be Chaz Lanier making shots in this one. He's done it all year. The North Florida transfer has been maybe the best transfer in America so far this season, a year after they did this with Dalton Connect. So I think, they can win a grinder but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to be able to control tempo in Champaign. The crowd is going to be awesome, and Kasparis is obviously a key as well. Trying to limit him. You're talking about a big point guard when Tennessee's got one of the best veteran, diminutive point guards in the country in Zakai Ziegler.
Seamus, go ahead. Break this down for me from a betting perspective.
Yeah, so we opened this Illinois -1.5, and sharps have bet this through 0 up to Tennessee -1.5. And one thing about the great state of Tennessee with BetMGM, if the Volunteers are playing any sporting event, we are probably going to need the other team. They show out in droves for their team, and so we're pretty lopsided on Tennessee here. We're going to be rooting for Illinois, and Illinois is one of those states where if you live in the state, you can't bet on Illinois basketball. So it's a recipe for a lopsided book there. So right now, it's pros and Joes, both on the Vols today.
I actually like Tennessee in this spot. I understand why, Goodman, you'd be in on Illinois, and I understand the matchup issues there. I just think that there's a level of toughness that comes with being this Tennessee program, being as old as they are, being as physical as they are. And as much as I love what Kasparis has done, I'm going to have to see KJ do it against a bunch of guys that are 23 and 24 years old. And I know he's played in the EuroLeague, and I know he's played in Europe, and I get all of that, right? He's played in front of crazy environments. He's played good teams. I get all that. I kind of need to see it before I fully buy into it in the situation. Let me put it like this, Goodman. Breaking down Tennessee's defense, the ball screen defense that they play is very, very different than going up against the Arkansas ball screen defense, which may or may not actually exist. Gonzaga, UConn. We heard a little bit from Seamus on this. I got an opinion on this, but before I get into my rant, Goodman, what is the key to this matchup, and who do you think wins? Gonzaga, UConn in the Garden, nightcap, 8 p.m.
So Gonzaga has arguably the best point guard in the country. He's up there. You've said this over and over. I don't know if he's 1, 2, 3, but he's in the top 5. And UConn's point guard situation scares the shit out of me. It comes down to that for me. And I know it's a road game, but it's a road game with a Gonzaga team that is seasoned, right? I mean, they've played together and they're coming off a brutal loss, right? A brutal loss against Kentucky last week, in which they coughed up an 18-point halftime lead. I think they go to MSG, and in front of that crazy crowd of absolute lunatics and the lunatic on the bench, I think they end up winning this game. I think Gonzaga comes out with a huge road win here.
You had to do it. We were going perfectly fine, and you had to go in there and you had to take a shot at Hurley. Like, can you just play nice? Can you just be friendly?
It was a shot at all of you. It was a shot at you, the UConn fans, and Hurley. I tried to encompass all of you together.
Well, I will say this. Okay, so do either of you guys know which player leads the nation in fouls drawn per 40 minutes this season? Do either of you guys know? Any guesses? It's Graham Ike. He leads the nation in fouls drawn per 40 minutes. Do you know what UConn's biggest issue is this season? Their single biggest Achilles heel. Foul trouble.
Samson Johnson out of foul trouble. Yeah.
Samson and Terrace Reed keep them out of foul trouble. And I just don't see any way, with the number of possessions that are going to be in this game and how Gonzaga likes to force feed the ball into the post. I mean, Ike is using 34% of Gonzaga's possessions. He draws 9 fouls per 40 minutes. I just don't see any way that those two big guys don't stay out of foul trouble. I think that is going to be a nightmare matchup for UConn. And this is the test. Like, they can't go far this year in tournaments and Big East play if they can't keep those two big guys out of foul trouble, and this is the test to find out. So I think I tend to lead towards Gonzaga here, but I'm also going to stay away from it because, Seamus, as they say, you got to bet with your head, not with your heart, and that's kind of what I'm doing. Louisville, Kentucky. Break down this matchup for me. Right now, BetMGM has it as Kentucky minus 10.5. The total is 159.5. And Seamus, I think I tend to lean towards the over here. I like to think of it as life's too short to bet the under. So you always got to take the over if you like a total. But I think the over is the play for me in this game.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. We opened this at 158.5, and some sharp money took this up to 159.5. Sharps are kind of all over this game. This number was up to 12.5 for a little bit. and it's been bet all the way back down to 10.5 now. So definitely some sharp Louisville money coming in, but the public, they don't need an excuse to bet Kentucky. So right now, looking a little lopsided on the Kentucky spread. So we're rooting for Louisville, and then right now the total's just fine, but definitely some sharp money on the over and Louisville.
Hey, Rob.
Goodman, what would it mean for Louisville to get this win?
6 straight for Kentucky at Rupp. The last time I think they beat him at Rupp, a guy named Andre Magee was in uniform for Louisville. That's how long ago it was.
What happened the last time we heard about Andre Magee, Jeff?
Yeah, we're not going to go. We don't have time for that on this 30-minute show, okay? What we do have time for is the fact that Louisville is, Pat Kelsey loves playing 10 guys, right? He's done that at Charleston. He wanted to do that at Louisville. He's down to really 7 guys right now. I think they can hang with him for 20, 25, maybe even 30 minutes. But I think at some point, Kentucky's depth, and they're down, obviously, Kirk Kriisa. We know that. But I think they've got enough there. Mark Pope, he'll still go 9-10 deep. I think they can wear Louisville down. I think it's at Rupp. I think these fans are so ready to watch this game and watch Mark Pope on the sidelines. Not that Cal hasn't done it. He's had, obviously, Louisville's number over the years, but I think they can't wait for this one. And they're rolling, and they're an elite shooting team where Louisville, one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country.
Yeah, I don't buy that Louisville is as bad three-point shooting as they've been. I think that is going to be something that kind of regresses to the mean as we go through the season.
Because they shot it well in the Bahamas? Because they shot it well in the Bahamas?
Because they have good shooters. There's good shooters. Like, the players on this roster are good shooters. Like, they're not – Pat Kelsey is not going to be shooting more than 53% of his field goal attempts from beyond the arc if he doesn't believe that these guys can make threes. And I think that eventually they're going to end up going down. Part of the reason I like the over instead of either side here is that because of the number of threes that both of these teams take, I think there's a little bit of variance there. So I don't want to kind of be guessing on who's going to find a way to be able to knock down a couple extra threes more than expected. But I think the pace of play and the way this is going to kind of be like a pickleball match for you, Goodman. Give me the over here. All right, let's roll through some of these other games a little bit more quickly. In Indianapolis, we have a doubleheader. Texas A&M against Purdue is the opener, and then we have Wisconsin against Butler in the nightcap. We'll start with Texas A&M and Purdue. Is there anything that you could tell us, Seamus, about where the money is right now or where the sharp action is that might be able to lend some people insight on where they want to be betting here?
So sharp money moved this from -1.5 to Purdue to -2.5 right now. Total stayed about the same at 143.5, but it looks like it's just a little bit lopsided on the Purdue spread at -2.5. I think that the book is going to be pulling for A&M here, and Purdue, Kaufman, Wren, and Braden
Smith.
Braden
Smith.
They're the 2 most popular bet player props all season long, all on the overs, all from customers in Indiana. So whenever they go under their player prop totals, it's good news for the book.
Good.
Biggest thing, Rob, is can Purdue keep Texas A&M off the glass, off the offensive glass? That's what they do. I saw them earlier this year in Vegas. Henry Coleman, one of the best offensive rebounders in the country, and they got 2 guys now who can put the ball on the floor. Wade Taylor and Zurich Phillips. The only question for me is, like, you just don't know what you're going to get out of those guys. So I would be terrified to bet on this game. I would. I just have no feel for what to expect out of those guys. And obviously, Texas A&M's great defensively, and if Purdue takes care of the ball, and Texas A&M's defense isn't going to go after Purdue's guards. Like, they're not going to turn up the heat like some other teams did against Purdue's guards and overwhelmed them, like Penn State, frankly. So I think Purdue will be okay, but you never know what you're going to get out of Wade Taylor.
Yeah, I tend to lean towards Texas A&M here. The craziest stat for me for Purdue is that Trey Kaufman-Wren has not blocked a shot since the first half of the first game of the season against Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and he's the 5 man. And the thing about Texas A&M is there's always going to be pressure on the rim and pressure on the paint from some of their big wings attacking the bucket, from guys like Zurich Phelps putting the ball on the floor, from their ability to get to the offensive glass. And I just worry about that a little bit with Purdue. A&M is good at forcing turnovers, but it's not the same kind of ball pressure. You're right, Goodman. I would probably tend to lean towards Texas A&M in this spot, but I don't have a great feel.
40-1, Rob. So. Hey, Rob, 40-1. That is Purdue's record in its last 41 regular season non-conference games.
Yeah, that's why I am staying away. But if there was going to be a side, it would probably be Texas A&M. I feel a lot better about Butler in the nightcap in that game. I really like Butler plus 4.5. I'm not totally sold on Wisconsin this season. I think a lot of their success has been a result of, John Tonji and his. I think he's taking some people by surprise. His ability to get to the rim, his ability to draw fouls. Butler's got enough bodies to kind of throw at him. They're coming off of an ugly loss. This game is going to be played in Indianapolis. There's going to be more Butler fans and Wisconsin fans in there. This feels like a nice little buy low spot for me, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know right now where Wisconsin's head's at. Obviously, they got off to a great start. They've done this 2 years in a row. Tonji was incredible. Blackwell's been really good. But I'm with you. You kind of knew they were going to come back down to earth a little bit. And Butler, as long as they're not playing bye games, I kind of like the Bulldogs. But when they're playing bye games, I'm not sure I trust that model right now.
Seamus, anything you could tell us?
Yeah, this line was bet for the Sharps from plus 5.5, Butler plus 5.5 down to Butler plus 4.5. Now, with the public still coming in on Wisconsin here, so it's a nice little angle you have here, Rob.
Yeah, when people talk about me, they often say that I am one of the sharp bettors. I'm not one of the guys that donates all of my money to BetMGM. I am a sharp bettor is what everybody says. So if you see that little QR code in the corner, by the way, you can jump in. We have a field of 68 pick'em contest going on. No money involved. That one is strictly free, but you can go out and you can make your picks and you can prove yourself smarter than some of the talent here on the field of 68. I just filed mine today. You have until 11 a.m. the start of the Memphis Clemson game to be able to knock that out. Speaking of which, let's talk about Memphis at Clemson.
I like this.
5.5 points, Goodman. Clemson's one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. They have the best rebounder in college basketball. And these Tigers are coming off of a pretty ugly loss at home against Arkansas State. They're going to be hungry. Which Tigers do you like here? Is it the orange Tigers? Is it the blue Tigers? What do you got?
I mean, we know I look great in orange. So I would say I definitely like the orange Tigers here. I love Clemson in this game. I just think Memphis now losing at home to Arkansas State. They've come out and they've shot the hell out of the ball this year. And obviously, like Tyree, Hunter is not a guy that traditionally we've seen him for years now in college basketball, Rob. And I'm not sure I completely trust his 3-point shot, but he was great in a couple of their wins earlier this season. To me, again, Clemson's got older dudes, Chase Hunter, Ian Shefflin. I think, Jaden Zachary's been terrific for him. I just think Clemson wins this game, and they win it by double digits.
Seamus?
Lots of belief from the betting public today on Memphis, plus 6.5. That's where we opened, and it's now been bet down to Clemson minus 5.5. So right now we're hoping that Clemson can kind of pull away from this one.
Yeah, I think Clemson ends up winning. One of the reasons that I really like the Clemson side here is the metric sites and the analytics sites have it closer to 7. Some of them have it at 8. And that you can get Clemson laying 5.5 seems like the kind of bet that you want to be able to make here as well. We have another doubleheader, Jeff. We have one in Atlanta, and it starts with Ohio State taking on Auburn. And this is one of the lines that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. I know Ohio State got absolutely mollywopped when they went on the road to Maryland. I know they've been up and down. Mollywopped, yeah, it's a great word. And Auburn is Auburn, right? They might be the best team in college basketball. They might have the best player in college basketball. Bruce Pearl loves the city of Atlanta more than anybody loves the city of Atlanta. He constantly gets talent out of that city and out of the high school programs from around there. It tends to be something of a home game for Auburn fans when you are going to Atlanta. So 12.5 is where it's at right now on BetMGM, at least when I put together my notes for this show. What is that? That feels like a lot of points for an Ohio State team that really does have a couple of good guards.
A great guard in Bruce Thornton, one of the best in the country. And what does he do best? He takes care of the ball. I think he's got like a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He doesn't really get rattled very easily. Auburn's going to try to turn up the heat on him because their defense, I was there for that game against Duke, and their defense was subpar in that game. But like you said, it's almost a home court advantage for them in Atlanta. And I think they're going to try to rattle those guards, Meechie Johnson, Bruce Thornton. I don't know if you can do it. My biggest question is, how does Ohio State even begin to contain Janai Broome down low? I don't think they can. So I think this can, I don't feel strongly about it because, like you said, the number feels a little high. I feel like this one, if you're putting a gun to my head, I'll probably take the 12.5 points, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too, Seamus.
Yeah, I thought this number was a bit high too, but it's pretty much a home game for Auburn today. The Sharps certainly think that Auburn's just going to come out and beat the brakes off Ohio State. This opened at 10.5 and was quickly bet up to Auburn minus 12.5. And as is tradition with most Auburn games, we're going to hope the under hits under 152.5. This pace that they play, everyone likes to get on an Auburn over.
True.
Yeah, life's too short to bet the under, Seamus. That's why the books love it, right? That's why the books love the unders. I tend to lean towards Ohio State here plus 12.5. That just feels like so many points for a team that does have some really good guards. I think a lot of what Auburn does is thrive in transition and thrive off of mistakes that other teams make, and I have a hard time seeing some of those Ohio State guards making those mistakes. The nightcap there, it's not really a nightcap. It tips off at 3:30, but Arizona State against Florida. Jeff, this is, if I would have had to guess, this matchup would be like the best game between Ohio. Like, you got Ohio State and Auburn, you got Florida, Arizona State. I would have guessed that that Ohio State Auburn would have been the best game in Atlanta today. In the what is it? The Thanksgiving tip off, the holiday hoopsgiving. There you go, holiday hoopsgiving. That's what it is. Yeah. But Arizona State, Florida, like Arizona State's getting votes for the top 25. Florida's in the top 10. What do you make of this matchup? Can Bobby Hurley go across the country to Atlanta and take down Todd Golden and the Gators?
No, I don't think so. I think this is where reality hits of how young Arizona State's two most talented players are, right? I mean, the kid Sannon's been awesome so far, shooting the hell out of the ball. Jaden Quaintance has been good, and he's super young. He's got to stay there 2 years, even though to be eligible for the NBA draft. But, Bobby Hurley's done a great job. They've gotten some really, really nice wins. But, man, Florida's backcourt. Give me that backcourt against just about anybody in the country, Rob. And I'll take Walter Clayton Jr. and Elijah Martin, who's playing kind of back to what we thought he would, and fitting alongside Walter Clayton. Like, those two are two big, tough, physical veteran guards who, again, I think are as good as almost any backcourt in the country. So I will take the Gators here.
Seamus?
Yeah, going real quick. I mean, this line's starting to ping pong back and forth. Open Florida like minus 8.5, bet down to 6.5. Now we're at 7.5 with some buyback on the Gators. This looks like where it may settle down here, but definitely some sharp movement on over in this. Open 153.5. Now we're at 155.5. In terms of need, pretty good looking book. Plenty of balanced action on both teams here. So it looks like we were just hoping here under might hit.
There you go. The under might hit again. And just a quick correction. Goodman, you'll be shocked. I got it wrong. That's actually a triple header. Grand Canyon plays Georgia in the nightcap there. The actual nightcap tips off at 6. It's Grand Canyon against Georgia. This is why I'm normally not allowed to host, because facts are optional when it comes to some of the things that I often say here. A couple more games that I want to hit on, a couple of big matchups. Let's start with Creighton at Alabama. Creighton will be without Pop Isaacs, Jeff. He's done for the year. It was hip surgery, I believe, that he's dealing with. Alabama has played a brutal non-conference schedule, but they're coming home. They get Chris Youngblood back. It feels kind of like this is we've seen the peak for Creighton, right? And we're starting to move towards the peak for Alabama. I know how good Creighton is defensively. I know how good Ryan Kalkbrenner is. I know what they can do on that end of the floor. And I'm still looking at this and saying, man, it's really hard not to click that Alabama button, even laying 11.5 points.
I know it seems like a crazy number to give Creighton, but again, they're so short-handed right now. And Kalkbrenner is going to face so much pressure from this Crimson Tide team, right? Like, obviously, you can go with Big Cliff against them. More of a traditional big man. You can take Kalkbrenner away from the basket with a kid like Stevenson. They've got a lot of weapons, and then you add Chris Youngblood, who I talked to Nate Oates. He'll probably play 12, 15, maybe 17, 18 minutes today, but he's going to ease him back in. But what Youngblood gives him is that toughness, that leadership, that different mentality that I think they're missing. And I think it's really going to help Mark Sears out a ton and take some pressure off him, even from a leadership standpoint on the court. So I look for Alabama to really get going today and start like the real season for the Crimson Tide. Because the first, whatever it's been, 8-9 games have been mostly up, but they haven't looked great. They have not played their A game or maybe not even their B+ game so far this season. I look for maybe that to start tonight.
Yeah, so here's my take on this matchup, right? If I want to be on the Creighton, if I feel like I don't want to be on the Creighton side, but it's too many points to give them. And the reason why I don't want to be on the Creighton side is because what they can do defensively, right? Because of their ability to run you off the three-point line and funnel people into Ryan Kalkbrenner in front of the rim. I kind of feel like the under is the play here because I think that what Creighton's going to try to do is maybe control tempo a little bit more than usual, run Alabama off the three-point line. Alabama, as we know, either shoot threes or get layups. They're not getting layups around Kalkbrenner at the rim. I feel like the under is the play here, Seamus. Is that sharp? Is that maybe something where you call it public money, right? That's the nice way of saying it. So what is the total here? What is the info saying for BetMGM?
You're on the ball today, Rob. This opened 165.5. We're bet down to 163.5. So yeah, definitely some interest, some smart interest on under in this game. We opened this briefly at Alabama minus 10.5 before being bet up to minus 11.5, where we're at now. And there's just not a lot of money coming in now on this game. I'm wondering if people are just waiting to see how the day goes before getting involved here. Maybe some late injury news. We'll see. But yeah, not a ton of action coming in yet, but that will surely change by 8:30.
Yeah, that's the chase game, right? That's what. Oh man, I'm down. I'm down. Let me get it all back right now. Let me reload and let me get it all back right now on Creighton. If you need that, it's the Creighton under, guys. That's what it's going to be. Creighton, Alabama under. That's where you're going to make your money back. All right, NC State at Kansas. This is actually – so I'll go to you first on this one, Seamus. This is actually one of my favorite plays of the day. I think that Kansas minus 14.5, this feels like a spot where they're coming off 2 straight losses. They went from being number 1 in the country to I don't even know where they're actually ranked right now in the AP poll. They're 10th. So they went from being the number 1 team in the country to now they're ranked 10th. People have forgotten about them. And the thing about NC State is like the style that they play, they try to force you to a little bit to kind of make some mistakes, right? They're going to try to force turnovers. They're going to try to get you out of what you want to run. And if there's one thing that we know about DeJuan Harris, it's that he's not going to get sped up. He's not going to get bothered by opposing defenses. He ain't going to turn the ball over. Kansas is top 50 in the country at protecting the ball and offensive turnover rate. So I think that Kansas, this is their get right spot, right? This is where we've lost 2 in a row. People have forgotten about us. We need to make a statement. And NC State is going to come in here to Fog Allen Fieldhouse on a Saturday afternoon, on a day when there's no football to watch. That place is going to be packed. It's going to be loud. Give me Kansas minus 14.5. One of my favorite plays of the day here, Seamus.
Yeah, not a lot of money coming in yet here on this one, but I am almost certain we're going to end up needing NC State. I just don't think they're very good this year. Kansas, as you brought up a bunch of great points. This is going to be a big game where I think they put the pedal to the metal. And I fully expect a lot of money to come in on Kansas, especially from the loyal bettors in Kansas. They love betting the Jayhawks there. So I think we're going to need the Wolfpack here.
Yep. Goodman, we already talked about Marquette at Dayton. We all tend to like Dayton in this spot. Last one I'm going to give you. UCLA against Arizona. That game's getting played in Phoenix. UCLA is getting 4.5 points. Tell me why I shouldn't be all over the Bruins here.
Because Arizona's 4-4 and they are playing in Phoenix. They're going to have a home court-esque advantage there. They need this game desperately. I think Caleb Love is going to have one of his Carolina Caleb type moments today, and I think Arizona gets the win here and covers.
All right, fair enough. Last one I'm going to give you guys. Arkansas just won in Madison Square Garden. Everybody's back on the Hogs. They are at home against a bye game opponent, Central Arkansas, laying 28.5 points. There's no way that they cover 28.5 points. That's not what this Arkansas team does. Give me Central Arkansas, baby. Listen, this has been the Field of 68 pregame show. We gave you guys all the picks that you can handle. You got all the insight from our BetMGM correspondent, Seamus Magee here, and you got everything that you want to fade from Mr. Public Better, Jeff Goodman. The Sharps know how it is. We will see you guys tonight, 11 o'clock p.m. Me, Jeff, John Fanta, Kevin Sweeney breaking down everything that happened in today's insane slate of college basketball. Happy hoops, guys. We'll see you tonight.